Gentlemen, we are going live in 3, 2, 1, and we're live. Episode 15 now of the All In Loyalty podcast. All things loyalty, all in one place. We're getting pretty far. I don't know if you guys have heard in the Modern Wisdom podcast, they tend to say that once you reach 20 episodes and you go above that, you're already in the top 1% of all podcasts out there. Most of them don't tend to make it past that. So yeah, we're doing pretty good so far. We're doing pretty good. We are continuing, as always, to provide everybody with the information that they need to keep up to date with everything that's been going on in the loyalty space. The space has been growing, evolving, changing at a crazy pace ever since we started this show. We can already say that it's effectively transformed a lot of what we've seen since we started with this show, which was in like October of last year, especially when it comes to a couple of topics in particular. So the impact of AI, what personalization is looking like, things like that. As always, I'm Arno here with my bosses and co-hosts, Gabriele and Gianluca, of the Kiwi team. And today we decided we would mix things up a little bit. We decided we would add a fourth voice to our conversation because, you know, to be honest, you've been listening to the same three schmucks talk about the same topics for 14 episodes now. I think adding a little bit of spice to this whole mix is going to be kind of nice. So without any further ado, who best to have as our first guest as one of LinkedIn's biggest loyalty influencers, I dare say. We've got Adam Posner on here, and now this sort of makes it, I mean, if you combine your guys' years of experience in the loyalty industry, I mean, I don't even want to know what that number adds up to, but that's a crazy, crazy amount of experience. So first of all, Adam, welcome. And how about you start off with a little introduction and yeah, let us know what your deal is, what's going on. Yeah, everything. Let us know.
Everything, Arno. Well, thank you for the honor of, as you said, the first external guest besides, I like the way you said schmucks, but I don't think you are, because I'm sure you're all just very smart, wise, intelligent business people living and loving loyalty. And thank you for giving me the honor to be number 15 in terms of your episodes. And yeah, and shooting the breeze, as they say, about customer loyalty and loyalty programs. So yeah, for your audience out there, I'm Adam Posner. I'm the CEO and founder of a business called The Point of Loyalty, which is now into its 19th year. But I've been doing loyalty programs, data since 35 years ago or so. But that will give my age away, so that's not important. And then lately, in the last 14 years, I've been publishing here down in Australia and New Zealand, a research study called For Love or Money. It's now 14 Australian, so 19 studies altogether. My new one, 2026, is coming out within a week or two of the date stamp of this chat. So I'm not sure exactly what that be. I think it's around May. And yeah, appreciate the fact that you noticed my LinkedIn rant, which is how we connected, Arno, which is I woke up one day and I just said, I'm tired of bland, boring, same loyalty programs. And I wrote a little rant on LinkedIn, and for some reason it hit a nerve. Why did it hit a nerve with you, Arno?
Yeah, 100%. And we're definitely going to dive into that. That's like the first topic that we have on the docket today.
Yeah.
Just to do a quick follow-up question on the report that you do. How many iterations have you done now? I think this is like number 16 or 17 that's coming out. Yeah,
so it's the 14th one for the Australian market, but 19 altogether, because I did a few New Zealand versions. So 19 altogether are For Love or Money, and the 14th one, the 14th year in a row for the Australian study.
And this is for people that want some of these loyalty insights, that are curious about what the state of loyalty is in the current year, where some of these trends are going, et cetera, right?
Spot on. It's an independent study. I commissioned it to an independent researcher who goes to consumers. So it's a consumer study with a panel that's got a robust sample size to give us some statistical relevance. So any of the results that come up, have what we call a confidence level and a margin of error to give people, loyalty program managers, the industry, I guess, some robust insights from the consumer's perspective about loyalty programs, about customer loyalty, about data, about personalization, about AI, about the currencies of program benefits.
Everything.
We could go on for 105 pages this year, Arno.
Sounds like we're gonna have to cover this in a future episode, guys. But given that it's 105 pages, it might take a couple of episodes to actually go over everything. But hey, I have almost overlooked the rest of the introductions. So first of all, Gabriele, how's it going? How are you today, sir?
I'm doing very, very good and super excited to have Adam here, first guest in our podcast. So very excited about the conversation and looking forward to getting started.
Gianluca, how about you, man?
Doing great as well, and also super excited to have Adam on board. And yeah, I'm just curious to see the directions we'll go in the conversations, because as Adam already mentioned in his rant, it hit a nerve, and there's a few topics in there that he goes through, and I think that's topics that we've talked extensively about, and we all feel on the business end, and then also as a consumer, you see both sides, and you're like, yeah, that's definitely something.
I mean, that's the interesting thing, Adam, is like, for the most part, now that we've done 14 episodes together, the three of us, we can kind of already start to predict what the other person is going to say about certain topics. Like, when you know someone well enough, we could be like, okay, he's probably going to have this opinion, he's probably going to say this, et cetera, et cetera. But now we've got like a wild card in here, and that like keeps things fresh and keeps things interesting for everybody. And maybe you disagree with us in some things. That's also super nice, being able to have like some healthy debate over a couple of topics. But yeah, that being said, we're talking controversy. Let's get into the rant. We have this LinkedIn post. This is one of the first things that we're going to talk about today, because Adam is here, and who better to talk to than the actual author of the post. So you had this post that ended up performing very well on LinkedIn, and I'm not gonna read like the entire thing out loud, but it basically starts with, "I'm tired of bland, boring, same loyalty programs," and then you go on to list some of the things that you want to see from loyalty programs today. And it continues. We can go through and like, we're going to be picking favorites and stuff like that at some point. But then you do end it with, and this is something that you're quite vocal about, and you repeat a lot on your page, which is, "I want loyalty to not be a program, because loyalty is not a program. I want more. I want it all." Exactly. So this one is very, very interesting, because there's a couple of very like key points in here. I mean, all of them are relevant, of course, but of course some of them are going to resonate more or less with others. But Adam, let's start with you then. What fueled this post? Did you wake up one morning and choose violence and decide to just hash all of this out? Where did this come from? Or were you maybe using a loyalty program and you were like, this one's not very good, and then that led to this rant? Was it something like that, or was it just spontaneous inspiration? Tell me the story.
No, I'll take the spontaneous inspiration, but it wasn't so spontaneous, because I think you guys will appreciate that sometimes a collective subconscious grows in the back of your head, or somewhere in your brain or in your heart, where you start over time, especially in a category, you start just noticing things, and it sort of collects. So I did wake up in the morning, and it wasn't like I planned it. I just sat down and I said to myself, I'm tired of these programs, and this is what I want. And I just started just writing what I want. And the list got longer and longer and longer. And in fact, I gave it a bit of rest, because I'm sure when you guys write as well, and I do a lot of writing, I write the first time, I get it all out, then I let it rest, and then I come back again, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
It depends if I'm in a rush or what the story is. So I let it sit for a little bit, but I just felt it needed to get out there. So I was in a hurry to get it out there. And what was absolutely surprising to me was when it started hitting a nerve with the audience and the community, because I asked for a call to action. And I said to the people, I said, what do you want? And for those that read my list, they started adding to what they wanted. And I got some private messages as well. So it's like, it wasn't an exhaustive list by any means, but it certainly covered a range of elements of loyalty programs.
Who knew that if you want a post to perform well, it's just spontaneous, organically just writing it down? That tends to be what does well in the algorithm. And this one feels like, there's nothing similar to it, right? This was something new, and this was something that people instantly kind of resonated with, especially because it's so all-encompassing that it feels like anybody working in any type of loyalty program could read this and agree or disagree with some of the points and decide to engage with it. With that being said, in general, how about we hop over now to Gabriele? First of all, your take on this post in general, and then maybe we can get into a couple of highlights. So if there's like one or two of these points that you resonate with more or less than the others, that would also be super interesting to hear. What are your thoughts on this?
First of all, I think it's a super cool post, and it looks like really you woke up, you had let's say a lot of feelings to express towards the loyalty industry. I like also at the end that I woke up and my coffee was cold, so I can imagine you just made a coffee, sat down, wrote the post, and then in the meantime the coffee got cold. But I think
I'll just jump in on that one. The coffee got cold is sort of a little analogy of a dream. You're dreaming and then you wake up. And you didn't realize that you had a coffee when you started dreaming, and then you woke up and it was cold. It was kind of like, I've done all this dreaming. I want. And then I got to the end and the coffee that I'd had ready was cold. But it was more the analogy of, you're spot on.
I mean, I know it because it happens a lot of time to me. Like I make a coffee, I go back to my laptop, I say, okay, I'll work in the meantime that the coffee is being done, and then I completely forget that I actually did a coffee. So I see 2 hours later, I'm like, shit, yeah, true, I did a coffee. No, I think a lot of good points. Honestly, I feel a lot of them. I also think that the loyalty industry in general needs a bit of an upgrade. When I look at what I want, for example, is easier, better user experiences where you just get faster to what you as a loyalty program member want. And I agree with you that loyalty is not a program, but for me as a member, at the end of the day, it is the biggest interface that I'm connecting with when I think about loyalty with a brand, right? So not a lot of brands make it so far in the sense that I feel the loyalty throughout the whole customer journey. You know what I mean? Like it's very difficult that you have, for example, Marriott. Every time I use Marriott, and since I'm a member of the program, they say thank you for your loyalty. So you have a few more touch points sometimes, also with airlines when you fly, and you have a certain status. They recognize you. They welcome you with your name and so on. But I have the feeling that loyalty is not a program, but at the same time, it is the program, because me as a member, that's the biggest interface, the biggest touch point that I actually have with that company, from where I see a certain recognition. You know what I mean? Like I spend money with that company, I get certain points, I get certain statuses, benefits, etc. So that's actually where I feel recognized and where I feel the benefit of being really a loyal customer. So I kind of agree with you. Not disagree, but I would say like it's just from a customer journey perspective, it's like there. And that's why I think so many loyalty programs could just do a much better job with their user experience, with also from a tech perspective, most of them are built on very legacy technology. So being CEO of a tech company, I'm like, hey guys, there's so much more that you can do. But yeah, I think that's one of the topics. And obviously what I think for me is the most important one that you have on here is the simple, personal, valuable. Because at the end of the day, a program needs to be very simple. Like I need to understand straightforward, what do I get? Why does it make sense to spend my time? It needs to be personal, because if you give me a redemption option or a perk that I don't know, I don't need, then I don't really feel recognized and valuable. The same thing. It comes out of the first two, basically. If it's not simple and personal enough, then it's not really valuable. So I fully agree. And honestly, the fun thing is every time I talk with friends or like also other people, when I meet someone for the first time, they ask me, what are you doing? And I'm like explaining them, working in loyalty, da, da, da. And then every time I hear the same thing. Like I hear, hey, I have so many loyalty programs. I don't know where I have how many points, where do I have which status, where do I have what perks and so on. And it's actually fun. I was talking with someone in Brazil, and the guy told me, yeah, I just employed an intern that manages all my loyalty program.
Really?
So he has a guy
Oh, no.
just
That's
keeping
crazy.
track of his loyalty programs, because like I don't have a clue where I have what, when
A
I book
real guy or an AI guy?
yes, no, a real guy. So he has a young intern basically that just keeps track of his loyalty programs.
That's amazing. That's a
Yeah,
story for the ages. I've never heard of that before.
me honestly also I never heard something about it, but it makes sense. And I mean, I have the feeling it's a universal problem. Like if you're not really a loyalty aficionado, where you're really into it, and you really keep track. And I mean, I see it like Gianluca and I have a youngest brother. He has a full Excel table of all his loyalty programs, where he keeps track of everything he has. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
there are a lot of people that are going that far.
do.
You know what I mean? So if you talk with those people, they have a super clear overview of what they have. But honestly, even if you ask me now, how many points do you have on Marriott? How many points? How many miles do you have on Miles and More or Emirates or whatever I'm using? I couldn't tell you like this. I could tell you maybe plus minus. So I think that is for sure something that I would say like this. There's for sure something that needs a solution that covers that part, because again, so many people use loyalty programs. But to actually extract the most value out of it and to feel that loyalty and that recognition, I think, again, programs need to be more simple, more personal, more valuable. And on the other side, there needs to be kind of something that ties everything together, that shows me, but not an Excel table, not an intern that I have to employ, but something else.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. Yeah. What are the other guys?
As usual lately, like it was with the loyalty programs, especially if someone's part of a lot of them. Like with me, it's a little bit more simplified because I'm part of 3 and I can keep track of those pretty easily. But it is kind of this reciprocal thing in terms of the effort you put in, right? You get out what you put in. And if Gabriel and Gianluca's brother is like doing all these Excel tables and everything, then you can know he's probably pumping the best value possible from out of these programs. But then not realizing it's exactly the same as the crypto phase back then. You need to be able to dedicate a lot of time to actually get into the thing and research it in order to make the most use of it. And maybe it shouldn't necessarily be like that. Maybe it should be a little bit more easy to use, a little bit more simplified, or a little bit more fun or engaging. I mean, people, the word gamification also comes up in loyalty programs all the time. It's a pretty common one. But it's definitely something that's very, very interesting, especially with this SPV acronym. I was going to mention that one as well. Simple, personal, valuable. Is that also a term that you coined, Adam, or did you find that one somewhere?
No, that's my baby. In fact, we're now talking about my baby. So, but we haven't heard from Jean yet. I
was going to throw it over to Gianluca. Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So maybe go
Any
back.
Highlights
you can come back to the SPV baby if you want.
You can add. I mean, you can mention any of your favorites, Gianluca, and we're gonna also do probably a follow-up question if there's anything else that we would like to maybe add to this list. The list is already pretty extensive, but I'm sure there's 1 or 2 more points that maybe we can throw on top of that. But how are you feeling about this so far, Gianluca?
Absolutely. Yeah, thanks. It's a great post. I love the points. And by the way, I have to say, I love your Joyalty Moments of Magic. I think we can also come back to that afterwards.
Next topic.
Yeah, I read about it. Super cool. Anyways, because I just wanted to say that off the bat. Super cool what you're doing there. From my side, what I honestly love about the post the most is the fact that you're heavy on the business side. And I think that's extremely important as well, especially when you go through the last points, where it's all about building a robust financial model. It's being responsible about increasing profits for the business. You're actually not only, which I actually find beautiful, is that you're not ranting only from a consumer perspective, but you're actually indicating that these businesses that operate loyalty programs or have loyalty within their businesses actually think about these things. Because obviously a lot of loyalty programs, when they are a bit more bland and boring, it is obviously about retaining your customers, but there's so much more to it, especially considering that it has the requirement of having a financial model behind the loyalty program, or a loyalty system, if we don't want to call it program. But essentially, it's one of those topics that we discuss a lot here as well, and we've touched on multiple times throughout the episodes, where that's one thing that sometimes goes forgotten. The fact that these loyalty systems or this loyalty program is not something that you just do by the way, and you're like, hey, cool, now we have a loyalty program. It's something that is fully integrated in the business. It's a business unit. It's part of the business. And as you also say, I want loyalty programs to put their programs on the boardroom agenda, like actually important on the level of management, and not just it's a campaign or it's a marketing gig or it's something we see everyone else do, so we start doing. So I really appreciate that part of the post as well, the fact that it goes also into the business topics, and it's not just I as a human want this, but it's I wish they would also think of that, so that they could give more in the end, so that they could make it more valuable, and not only generate value for me as a consumer, but also for them as a business.
Yeah, if I could respond to that, Arno. I mean, that's, I think, a great insight from your point of view, Jean, because there's this tension. And the tension always with loyalty programs is the value exchange between what's in it for the business and what's in it for the member, the customer. And so, yes, I absolutely know and believe and see that that's an absolutely challenging balance always, because businesses need to make a decent profit to survive. And if a program is one of their tools or mechanisms or constructs, to engage with their customers, then it's got to be delivering according to their objectives and fundamentally a financial return of some kind, outside of many other benefits that they get, data and a whole range of other things. And for the customer, ultimately, they're exchanging fundamentally their data. But to your point earlier on, Gianluca, is about the what's in it for them. So I'm giving you my loyalty. I'm spending more. I'm coming back more often. I'm flying with you. I'm buying from you. I'm telling my friends, however you define those elements. So what are you going to give me, kind of thing? And so that tension that you've identified is exactly where programs need to always be thinking and evolving and challenging, to be better.
Absolutely. It's really interesting how it's again another one of these running topics that we love to talk about on the show, because we cover all sorts of different things, right? We go over some of the latest loyalty program renewals, but also big failures. We talk about the AI topic all the time. We talk about the personalization topic all the time. But then especially when talking about, like, if a news story comes out of like, oh, this big loyalty program has now defaulted or has failed and is announcing that they're retiring it and everything, it always ends up delving back to give the loyalty program the amount of attention and manpower that it deserves a lot of the time. Because so many times you'll hear, and Gabriela is the loudest one for this, that they'll hand over the loyalty program to like one marketing person or something, or like a very, very minute team of people. And they'll make the most of it as much as they can, at least. But again, you get what you put in, right? And so if you actually have a team, if you have a group of people that's completely dedicated to it, you have like dedicated people with certain roles within the organization, and everybody knows their role and it's nicely organized and there's like a good amount of money going into it, that's when it starts to become this extra sort of revenue engine for the company, right? That's when you get these big entities like Miles and More, like Payback, like any of these big like points companies that actually go around there, because you've got the expertise around it, you've got the experience around it, and you've got the infrastructure, and you have the people that care about making the product as simple and lean and easy as possible. And most of the time when we hear about a lot of these programs failing, it is because it feels like the loyalty program is more of an afterthought, and whereas it should be thought of something that is actually at the very core of what you're doing, if what you care about is really then appreciating your loyal customers, right? If you actually have someone that's constantly, frequently using your product more often and spending more than everybody else, the program that they're on should make them feel special. And you need the appropriate amount of manpower and thought and dedication to that. Hence the boardroom meetings point. That was like one of my favorite ones as well, the boardroom agenda. Yeah, just to throw in my little 2 cents on this topic as well. I think it's interesting that we all kind of got into the same direction. But yeah.
Let me quickly jump in, Arno, because Adam, you said one thing that is, I think, just how do you say, just sparked the thought in my head, and what you said with the tension between the business and the member. And if I would add another want, is I would want loyalty program managers or head of loyalties thinking about breakage as a bad KPI, because there are so many. I honestly think that's like such a huge tension point, because
can you explain breakage?
Breakage is basically all the points that are not being used and expire, where the business at the end of the day, let's say, kind of makes money because they say, I gave out, I don't know, 1 million loyalty points, only 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 have been spent. So they're kind of happy that they didn't have to spend money on the points that have been spent, right? So, and this is such a huge, I mean, for me, it's like if you're a game designer and you say, I don't want my user to game too much. Which is kind of completely the contrary that you want. Like if you build a tool, you want to scale it as much as possible. You want as much activity as possible. You want as many active users as possible. And activity in loyalty program at the end of the day, like how do you, I mean, it's like an equation at the end of the day. I give you money, I give you time, I give you my data as a member to a company, right? On the other side, you give me kind of a currency in that moment, which is actually a store of value, if you want so, for the money, time, and data that I give you. And get this store of value. And with that, I can choose at a later point in time to get something nice for me. And that's that's exactly where, at least for me, like when I think about Joyalty, Moments of Magic, all that, that's actually where it happens, or at least a part of it where it happens, right? Because I can upgrade my flight, I can get a free, and it just feels good. I mean, I'm honest, like every time I can upgrade, every time I can pay a flight with miles, or I can pay a room with my points, it actually feels good. That's like, why am I being loyal to you? Because I get on the other side something on top, like the cherry on top, right? And it's literally that part. I mean, I get it from a CFO perspective, but like, I don't know, it's such an inverse thinking. That's such a tension point where you want actually on one side your members to spend their points, to be active, to come back, because when I spend my points, I get the value out of your program. So the probability that I come back and spend money with you, I spend my time with you and my data is much, much higher because I actually got something out of it, right? And so this is something, literally, when you talked about tension, I was like, breakage. It's like such a weird. And
it's one that was not on there, but I think somebody wrote it, or you can add it in now if you want. But it certainly is another one, and I'm so with you on that. And I've got a little mantra, which is redemption is retention.
100%.
Nice.
100%.
As soon as you redeem, you're retained into the ecosystem. And 100%. That you're right. That moment of redemption is the real deliverable, the moment of truth, whatever you want to call it, of the promise. The promise is, we will give you these if you do this. And at that very moment, when you've done this to get these, that moment of redemption is a pivotal moment. There are many others in the experience, and you spoke about some good examples earlier on, but redemption is retention. And so, having a balance sheet with zero liability on it would be ideal, because you would have all million points you gave away, all million points redeemed in the ideal world. Not saying that actually happens, but that's nirvana. That's when the coffee's hot, not cold.
100%. But you know what I ask myself? Is it like just bad loyalty economics design from the beginning? And that's why you don't want people to redeem all of their points? Or because I get kind of, the logic of certain programs have, for example, terms and conditions where they say, look, if you're not active for 2-3 years, then basically your account expires, and with that also your points amount, which I kind of understand. You know what I mean? Like, you want to have really active users in your program, and obviously, again, being a tech company, I know how much it costs to have servers running with databases that have, I don't know, millions of users on it that are not active. For whatever reason. I mean, there's so many people that just register to a program the first time they see it, and then they forget about it. They don't use that brand that much, and so on. So, like, you have to build that loyalty. It's not something that I register to the program and then, bam, I'm loyal. It still needs a lot of time to build that relationship between a brand and the customer. So that part I get. But what I don't get is, if you have active users, why don't you want them to redeem the points?
Yep. Exactly.
It's crazy.
I think it's I would love to ask that follow-up question, maybe to anyone who can answer it honestly. When we see a lot of these things, because that is another thing that we see quite regularly, is when we are looking at loyalty programs and points, we do hear about, high liability. And there is always this sort of clash, like you mentioned, where, if there's a lot of people that have a lot of points, ideally you do want a lot of them to redeem as much as possible. But at the same time, you also, you've probably got people in the organization that are saying, hey, there's a much easier solution that saves us a lot of money. Just add an expiration date to these points, and then, they'll magically go away after a while. Is this like a mindset shift that needs to happen, like in the marketing department or the loyalty department of these companies, where they should just start off and kick off their program with the assumption that everybody is going to redeem every single point that you dish out? Or, like, is there some interesting, easy solution to this issue?
Just one quick story on that. Did you guys watch the movie Where Is My Jet?
Yes, is that the one with the
Pepsi?
giving away of the, yeah.
Where you get an F-16. Honestly, that's like that's the, how do you say, the top pyramid of breakage, because they actually thought nobody will get to the point that they could get a jet, right? And there was one group of people that actually organized themselves to earn as many, and they calculated actually, and this is what I think, like, a lot of companies are facing. The economical design of their program is just not strong enough from the beginning. And that was the example from Pepsi, because the guy calculated, okay, I need to spend $3 million on Pepsis, and I get a jet that is worth, I think, 15. So that's literally bad loyalty program design.
And I think you're spot on there. And if we really get down to the challenge, there is building a financial. If you're building a new program, you've got to create a hypothesis. You've got to create predictions of what might happen. And so in your dynamic financial model, you've got to say to yourself, of all the variables, from volume of members to value of spend to velocity of earn to redemption, so all the variables that could happen in every example of their experience with the brand or business. Do you build a model that works to the, the 100%, or do you be real and say, well, look, not everybody will join. Some will drop out. We'll have churn. We'll have the heavies. We'll have the lights. Some will expire. Some won't. You've got to build your model with a range of variables. And also you've got to be relatively conservative, because I'm sure you guys have seen programs that I have as well. In fact, I've been involved in designing programs where, people were storing up their value of their cashbacks towards a Christmas period, and there was a rush on redemptions. And what happened was the cash flow impact on the business was extreme, and created a whole range of repercussions, including, revaluing the program into the next year and all of those sorts of things. So, there's one is a theory and one is reality. And I loved your provocation when you said, is it about the industry and all the professionals in it, like you and I and all of those hundreds of thousands of others or thousands of others working in the industry? Are we building programs set up to be successful or to fail? Because we just cannot predict every single element of the world around us, which have impacts.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's, and that's like the business decision tension, I would say, that a lot of loyalty program managers face is, on one side, you want to build a program that is valuable enough, right? So you want to show people, hey, it makes a lot of sense to spend your money with me because you get points with a very high value, right?
Yep,
so that's like one thought. The other thought is, and automatically, if you think about the hypothesis that you make, if you then calculate the worst case, again, somebody that thinks about breakage, you make 100% redemption, it gets super expensive. So you start then actually thinking about, okay, but not all the people will actually redeem. So you start building this hypothesis, and then throughout the business, you actually start seeing, oh, there are actually more people that redeem the points than I actually predicted. And so you want to build kind of a very attractive program on one side. That's why redemption value is very high. On the other side, you expect maybe a smaller amount of people actually redeeming, or you make also the program maybe a bit more complicated, so not really SPV, and that's, I think, where the tension starts internally for loyalty program managers. And again, theory, and this, I mean, at the end of the day, the CFO's job. Like, if I'm giving away, or if points worth 1, 2, 3, 4, 5% of my revenue, just put that money aside. Because then it doesn't matter when you have actually, and I mean, it's the same logic with banks. Like, if there is a run on a bank, if you have the cash on the side, like you should have, then there is no issue, right? So I think is that how you say correct? It's like a mix between, okay, in theory, it would work out pretty simple, I would say. But like, then reality is a completely different story, because again, not every dollar that should be put aside is being put aside. A lot of higher values are being given out, and then with an assumption of very low redemption, etc. So I think it's that tension. But like, again, like, I understand it, but I also don't understand it at the same time, because it's literally like, if you just follow the theory, you won't have any issues with it.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing topic. And I mean, I think we can pretty comfortably say that no one's fully figured it out yet. I think we have a couple of these like airline miles and hotel programs that come pretty close, but yeah, it's something that we'll just have to continue to see. And honestly, I think these failures are just going to continue just as much as well. But I do have a perfect segue here, Adam. I have a very, very nice one. This movie that you guys talked about, this Pepsi thing, the guys that actually orchestrated this entire thing, do you think when they go to a restaurant and they order a Pepsi, do they ever look at it the same way again? They don't. Do they get reminded of the story every single time they order one, or a waiter with one walks by them?
They switch to Coca-Cola.
Does that count as a joyalty moment of magic? Yes or no?
Oh, wow. No. By definition, no. Because the definition of joyalty moments of magic is as follows. It's your customer's feeling of maximum joy and delight from one or a series of moments of magic delivered by your brand. So it's got to have been a great experience. I'm not talking a negative joyalty moment of magic. That's what I would call, a friend of mine calls it kill joyalty. You want to kill joy?
Damn, that's good.
It's the opposite. My friend Phil Hawkins here in Australia, when I was telling him about joyalty, he said, and when it's a bad experience, Adam, is that kill joy? I said, I'll have to save that one for another time. So I don't know if I can't remember the full Pepsi story, except for the fact that they try to weasel themselves out of actually letting the people win the prize, I think, if I remember. because
Yeah,
it was
yeah,
because they
that's-
actually got people winning it. But joyalty moments of magic by definition are what the old surprise and delight, the old unexpected random acts of kindness. But they certainly can be planned. I call them planned spontaneity. So loyalty programs can budget for wow moments, a budget for giving to a member or a customer. It doesn't always have to be within a program, but they generally are, that unexpected. So, when you've got an expected promised proposition, $1.1, 100 points, redeem, everything's out in the open, covert, promised, structured, ready to be used by the spreadsheet of your younger brother. But your younger brother doesn't know about the Joyalty Moment of Magic at the programs that he's part of will serve him when he pops in for whichever brands or businesses he's striving to earn his rewards from. And then he'll get, oh my goodness moment. That's kind of like the oh my goodness moment. And I'm very passionate about this because I think we need more emotion in loyalty. We're not only transactional,
100%.
and it doesn't always have to be money driven. It can be as simple as, and I've got so many examples I've collected over the years. I think I've got well into the hundreds now, and I wrote a paper on it with 25 examples. But I recall discussing this with somebody about these even signals in the data that can deliver a moment of magic. As an example, I found, I think it was the McDonald's in the UAE. They got an order from a hospital bed for some Maccas, yeah? And they delivered it to the person in the hospital bedroom or the bed with a note that said, we see you've ordered from a hospital or whatever it is. We hope you get better. This is on us.
It's super sweet.
Nice.
Right.
Yeah.
So
And they'll never forget that.
Yeah. So all I'm saying to you is the data can signal it, or you can, you can drive it through various other strategies.
I have
honestly-
another interesting. Go for it,
Go ahead.
Gabriele, please.
No, go ahead or no worries.
I was just going to mention another example. This is very location specific to here in Bavaria, but it's a BMW example where occasionally if you buy the right BMW at the right time, I don't remember if they raffle this or if it's randomized or something, but they will sometimes give you the option to collect your car at the BMW Welt in Munich. So if you know what BMW Welt is, it's this huge, next to the BMW museum, this huge thing where they display the latest cars. It's like an ongoing tech exhibition. And it's this massive, beautiful building in Munich. And it's free to enter, so it's always very crowded. And you get these moments. I feel like it's kind of spontaneous because it's random, but it's also then planned when you actually get there. But
Yeah.
your car will be there at the top of a ramp, and then the ramp sort of circles down and then goes to the exit. And you have sometimes the option to collect your car there and drive it down as the first drive. And then it's kind of like a thing where everybody that's there that's watching, they know it's someone that bought a new BMW, and that you get a bunch of applause and everything.
Amazing.
And as soon as I heard about your principle of the Joyalty Moments of Magic, I remember my first day in Munich when we moved here was we visited that thing, and we saw people clapping whenever someone went down with a new car. We're like, damn, that's that's one of those moments I think also that people will never forget.
And you said something really important in that beautiful story. You said, that's what I remember.
Mm-hmm.
And memory comes from a meaningful moment. You don't remember the points that you redeemed for the $10.
Yeah.
But you
And
remember
the best thing
moment.
there was that it was on display. It wasn't even me doing the redemption. I just saw someone else doing it, and that made me also think wow.
But it's that word memory, and
Mm-hmm.
I think that loyalty programs can do a lot more to create more memory and more memorable moments to tell others. So yeah, if we want, I'd love to hear anyone else's examples. We haven't heard much from. I think it's Jean-Luc. I don't think we've heard much from you yet.
And you touched
like
on the
Gabrielle.
topic earlier.
Sorry, Gabrielle. Yeah.
No,
Gabriel, did you want to?
I'm the guy that talks too much. So that's Gabriel.
Well, plus Gianluca
Go
also
ahead,
touched
Gianluca.
on the Joyalty Moments of Magic earlier on. So maybe you have another example or two or
Gianluca,
something
yeah.
for us.
example, I honestly I can't think of one right now, to be honest.
I put you on the spot.
You're
Okay.
choosing the wrong brands.
Huh?
You're
What?
choosing the wrong brands in that case.
Yeah, exactly. I was reflecting. I was like, Adam said it's all about the memory, that you, and I'm like, I can't remember anything right now. I've never felt that joyalty moment.
The thing is, I think I mentioned a grandiose example, but like if you read some of Adam's content, it's also a bit of like the very small things that matter a lot as well. Like it can be as small as going to a hairdresser or whatever and having them offer you a free coffee or drink or whatever it is. Like that technically also counts and sticks into their memory. So
the unexpected surprise in the end that
Yeah.
you weren't anticipating. That's
Correct.
also why you have that emotional moment that you say, oh wow, okay. Honestly, for me, also what Gabele mentioned before with some of the travel businesses or even accommodation businesses, sometimes even just a small fact that when you enter, they call you by name as they are expecting you. You're not just someone who randomly comes in. Even those small touches do something.
Yeah.
But one thing that I wanted to touch on, because I really can't think of one right now, but one thing that I wanted to touch on is that's exactly also one of those topics that we have discussed so many times, and we always come back to it. And that's also a question that I see you're asking and you're exploring, and I think honestly the whole loyalty industry explores all the time, is what is actual true customer loyalty or loyalty in this context. And we've had the debate so many times, we've had this back and forth so many times, where there's the emotional aspect of it all, and that's exactly what you're doing with the Joyalty and what you're exploring and showing with the Joyalty Moments of Magic. And then there's that pure transactional loyalty where it almost then doesn't look like loyalty anymore, because you're just optimizing for the best path that is economically viable and effective for you, which as a consumer, you almost don't care about the fact that I'm choosing this airline over this airline or this hotel over this hotel. It's just what is the best path that is economically viable for me.
Yep.
Through the loyalty programs, even though my decision to do that is the exact display of disloyalty in some senses, So
Yeah.
it's an interesting thing, because I feel like those moments, they anchor the loyalty aspect of, I think I'm going to come back to this hotel, this airline, this business, this coffee shop, because they do give me that emotional feeling of joy.
Well, to put a cherry on this actual cake, I have an interesting metric. If you look at this quote, I don't remember who this article was from, but you appeared on it, Adam. It was an interview. And at the very bottom, we have a statistic brought from the man himself. And it says, Posner's research shows that 59% of customers are more likely to return to a business after experiencing a Joyalty Moment of Magic, and 55% are more likely to tell friends and family about the joyful experience. I mean, I feel like that sort of hits the nail on the head the most, right? If you're talking to someone, your girlfriend, your friends, or whatever it is, you want to tell them about something interesting and exciting that happened in your day. And that's kind of what you're manufacturing for them, essentially. And they appreciate it so much. And yeah, you also had this great example, Adam, where you had this moment with a coffee shop. This was like a 2-year project of yours with the free coffee redemptions that you did.
Yep.
It's still going on?
Still going on. Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up. Sorry, if you want to
could you break that down? Yeah,
yeah. Look, that's just an absolute joy for me. So the story is as simple. Up the road from me is my local cafe. He first of all makes me the most amazing coffee. It's always spot on. Triple shot latte every morning. I'm a man of routine and ritual. I walk up there and he's got his, he hasn't got a digital card. He's got a little board with all the cards on it, and they buy 10 get 1 free. And I got to my 10th once, and I said to him once, I said, look, I'll buy it. You don't have to give it to me for free, but why don't you just give it to a stranger when I've left the shop? And the surprise on his face was, wow, Adam, yeah, of course I'll do that for you with pleasure. So I paid for the 10th, right? I didn't get it for free, but it was my way. And then he gave it, and I came back the next day. I said, how did it go? He said, it was amazing. I said, okay, well, now we're going to get going, and I'm going to do this for the rest of the year, but I need your support. So I needed to get his barista, his team, to, when I give them the wine and I say, I've paid for it, please give it to a stranger. And so for the whole of the first year, I got to 31 free gifts to a stranger. And so you could just do the numbers. That's 310 coffees that of 365 days. So I've done some crazy behavior. You talk about behavior changing, just to make sure I buy one from him. Like, I make sure I have coffee meetings there. If I'm driving somewhere and I want to get a coffee on the way, I'll go by him and get it, only because I'm motivated by this whole story, right? That was first year, and they loved it so much. And his team, you can see the delight on their team, like they feel like they're doing something nice. So it's not only about the stranger getting a coffee, it's about this whole feeling of the team giving, right? And notes are very small. So the second year I did it was last year, and I got to 32, 320. So I managed to get enough to get 320. Well, this year I'm aiming for 33. So that's I've got to get to. So out of 365 days, I've really only got 30 days or so where I can't go if I'm away or whatever it is, or I've got to buy 3 on a day, or I've got to do some crazy behavior. And as of tomorrow, I think I'm on number 13 tomorrow. So that's my Joyalty Moment of Magic story, Arno. It gives me a lot of delight just knowing that someone's getting a smile, the team are winning. Look, if you do the maths, it's a little bit of money, but it's like, you could give to charity, but I'm giving it one day at a time, or one coffee at a time.
I mean, my first question was going to be, why isn't it 365, actually? But yeah, I'm sure you travel and stuff.
Yeah, I travel. I don't go. Like, sometimes I just, I've got to give myself a little bit of grace. Like, there's 30 days.
Oh man, but that's cool, and it's interesting too. The initial reaction that you mentioned, that stuck with me too, because I could imagine you saying something like that, and like the guy in charge of the barista just looking at you in shock, originally going like, "Are you serious? You want to just give it to someone?" I mean, true spontaneous generosity is something that still confuses people to a certain degree.
Well, it's like, you're right, it does. A lot of people, I mean, how many times have you heard when you've won a prize or someone phones you, congratulations, you've just won something, or this is it, and say, really? Is that true? Is it a scam? Is it genuine? Like, there's a little bit of strange things in humans. We might want to, I don't know if you feel it, but do you feel like, do you like to accept kindness as much as like you like to give kindness? It's like, I'm being very personal here, but like, how do you guys feel?
It's
true. Yeah, there is something to it. I think it's because also we're maybe as a human race, or what, I don't know what it is, anchored maybe in culture as well, but we're not used to getting things for nothing. So there's that what's going on? Yeah, but
we're
definitely
transactional creatures.
Yeah, and always any surprise that is positive in that sense, of course. Especially, I can imagine, especially if you go to a coffee shop and you're there for your coffee, and then you just get it for free. I'm sure that's an amazing feeling, because it's something you definitely don't expect. You're completely out of your home. You're completely out of your circle of trust and comfort and of people you know. So it's a stranger at a bar that maybe after a while you'll get to know, but you'll just get a coffee for free, and they'll tell you, yeah, it was someone else who got the loyalty card stamped, and now you're getting it. It's
and I'll bet it's infectious too. I'll bet that kind of stuff spreads around very nicely as well. I could feel if someone's very cynical, or just generally has that mindset, and they go to their coffee place and somebody says, "Hey, a stranger gifted you this coffee." I mean, that creates ripples. That has a bit of a ripple effect, I feel like. Yeah. It's got that sort of influence.
If I may interject for 1 second.
Yeah.
One thing that when I was reading your your site or your post about the Joyalty and the story that you when you started it and everything, one thing that came to my mind is, this is me just creatively wondering, is what would it look like if that coffee shop, or any coffee shop for that matter, would turn this stamp card loyalty program into, whenever you buy 9 and you would get the 10th for free, you don't actually get the 10th for free, someone else gets it. So inevitably, you're always doing it for someone else, but because everyone is doing it for someone else, you'll also be on the receiving end for sure.
Wow. I love that thinking. That's really, really interesting.
There
Like
is
not doing
actually-
it for you, but yeah.
there is
Yeah,
actually-
that's a big human experiment.
And you know what is fun? Actually, something like this happens. Again, not like something like a loyalty program. In that it is kind of a loyalty program, but
Yeah.
it's not a formal loyalty program. And I don't remember the name. It has a specific name. And in Naples, in Italy, basically what happens a lot is that, for example, a coffee costs €1.50, right? A lot of people pay €3, and those the second 150, basically the barman or the coffee shop puts aside for a homeless person. So if a homeless person comes in, basically that can't afford a coffee, it is already paid for by someone else.
Already paid for. Wow.
And this is really crazy because it's like baked into the culture. So it's something like super normal. It's not that people wait for it, that the barman says it and so on. They just do it by themselves. And that's like how a lot of people that can't afford a coffee actually can get a coffee, right? So you can just walk in, a homeless person, somebody that doesn't have enough financial, let's say, means to get a coffee, and you just get it for free because it's basically paid by the community, right? So I think you have like these isolated examples where people are taking care for each other in a really, again, like in a really kind way. Like if you think about it, and it's crazy because you don't, as you said before, I really have the feeling that a lot of people are kind of like, when I get something for free, there is something wrong with it.
Yeah, it's very interesting, that psychology of it. That's why it's interesting in your point.
I actually saw it was a reel on Instagram where a guy actually made that test, and he was giving away 10 grams of gold, like the 10 grams of gold.
Well, yeah.
So it was just in the street. It was like, hey, do you want some gold? Hey, do you want some gold? And people were like, no, leave me alone.
Yeah.
Like out of 10, maybe 1 stopped and actually said,
Yeah.
this is real gold. I can get it. It's for me.
Yeah.
Like all the others, like, no, leave me alone. This is a scam. So it's like crazy how people have that. I don't know. It's maybe.
No, I think you nailed
there's
it.
a lot
when you
about the
said-
world that we're in, and let's say the
Yeah.
mindset that we've built. And I also think sometimes it needs kind of a bit of naivety in the sense that, or either naivety, or you don't memorize bad experiences that much to the point that you take them always with you. You know, when something good actually happens in your life and you actually get a cherry on
You're
top,
ready
and
to
like,
give
no,
it to
it's fine. I don't need it. I don't want it, and so on. So I think it's, those stories remind me a lot about these topics that we just talked about. And one last point, I really think it's honestly depending on the human being, actually, like being on the side of, let's say, in your case, the coffee shop, for example, or also you as a customer, right? It's really depending on, and honestly, I don't even know if training makes it up. You know what I mean? Like training your staff to have a certain, to create these kind of moments. I have the feeling that either you are a person that actually has that, how should I call it? Sense of creating, desire to actually creating joy in others, right?
Yeah. I have an open heart and abundance.
Correct. Yeah,
and,
correct.
and kind of like an open heart and open mind, but also care for others. So it's not only about the bottom line and all of that. So
Yeah.
That was going to be my next question for you, Adam, actually, which is these Joyalty Moments of Magic, they do always come off and feel very spontaneous. But how can an enterprise actually adapt something like that? Like, is that something that you can actually use with in conjunction with data to actually like do this kind of thing? Because you do have the term planned spontaneity, right? So it does feel a lot more, of course, genuine and pure and natural when it's your favorite coffee place that actually does something like this. But if it's something huge, Marriott Bonvoy, Miles programs, stuff like that, how can they actually like use that to their tens of millions of customers?
I think that's a really important question you ask, because it's easier to do it at small scale, like we've discussed potentially, but at larger scale. Look, there's a range of ways in which to consider this. And there's it's quite a long answer, but let me get to, you got to, first of all, I've got 8 stages. So if you want to, at the end of this podcast, I'm happy to give away my paper on Joyalty Moments of Magic. And in there's the 8 stages and 25 examples. So it's a paper.
We'll link it in the description for sure.
And I'm happy to email it to somebody if somebody wants it. But one of that very question, I know, is, why are you doing it? So getting clear on your goals, who's it for? So is it for all 10 million members, or is it for the top 100, or is it a random A/B test? Who's it for? So you've got to think about the audience and the customer base and the member base, right? And then it's like, where in the life cycle of the experience? Is it at that moment when you've come into the hotel room and there's a bottle of wine and a thank you note to you saying thank you? Where in the moment of the experience? So this whole plan spontaneity, there's 8 stages. I don't know if I'll go through all 8, but the point is that I love Gabrielle's comment about engendering it into the team, especially in retail and or customer facing. There's a pet group here who in the customer service the team, they gave them a budget. They call it a wow budget. They said, you've all got $100 and we're going to, each or whatever it was, I don't know the exact amount, and you have to spend that money on a wow moment for your customer. So your KPI was, we've budgeted for $100 for all of you for however long, you need to spend that. So you can escalate it, but it's all got to be planned. And there's a great story. I have to plug this book I've read called Unreasonable Hospitality. Incredible book. You've got to read it. It's an absolutely great book about a New York restaurant called Unreasonable. Will Guidara wrote this book. He wrote called. Have you heard of it?
Yeah, I think I've heard of the story now that you mentioned it.
It's here at my desk because I read it so often. Anyway, the story in there is, in the restaurants, he's got what he call a 95-5. He's got a budget for 5% of his overall budget is to create legendary moments for his customers. So of his 100% of his budgeting, 5% is allowable for creating legendary moments for customers. So I know there's a whole range of ways of doing things at scale. Now, if you've got 10 million members, a little bit different than if you've got 1,000. So your question is very valid, because a lot of people say to me, oh, this sounds all great, Adam. It's a lot of, airy, fairy, fluffy stuff. And I say there's finance in feelings. There's finance in feelings, because the people who you create Joyalty Moments of Magic for will tell others. What is telling others? It's your greatest form of advertising. What is it when you all guys go home and tell your friends over a beer or a shandy? Remember the shandy? Tell your friends and family about whatever you experience, whether it's with a program, without a program, 10, 17, 20, 30, 50 others. So it's free advertising.
Not to mention, I feel like it must completely explode the customer lifetime value of people that are actually affected by it. If you actually get one of these moments and everything, like you're not going to go anywhere else after a while. If one of these moments is there and it's powerful, like that innate emotion that you feel, that's like, oh, they did this super nice thing for me. I feel like it's like almost a compulsion that I go over there, because it's loyalty. You feel like you owe it to them or whatever it is. Like you just keep going back.
It's a psychological, the reciprocity is the psychological element of that. And clearly, and I know we said it, but I'll say it again. It's got to be for a good reason, not off the back of a bad reason. Although there is something called service recovery. So if you guys have a bad experience and people say sorry and then repair you in the right way and potentially, give you that extra, then, you might continue to love and shop there and buy there and fly there. But certainly you can't put a Band-Aid over a broken experience.
I'm in the middle of that process right now. My ISP is being a bit of a pain. That's why I'm recording this episode at my brother's place instead of my new place, because they're having issues with the Wi-Fi. But anyway, the personal issues aside, we'll conclude about this topic in just a sec. But I could tell, Gabriela, you still had a couple of points you maybe wanted to mention.
Well, I mean, Adam told a lot of, or let's say, the conversation. A lot of those points came out again, like the topic of smaller brands having kind of that ability of being much more closer to the customer. So without a program actually giving those joyalty moments, and mostly if you see those owner-driven companies, like either it's a restaurant or a small boutique hotel and so on, where they actually remember you. They remember, hey, you always had that wine, you always had that drink. They give you at the end of the dinner, they surprise you, hey, the dessert goes on us. Like all these small things that make, let's say, the whole customer experience completely different. It works also on bigger brands. Like I experienced it when I studied in here in Switzerland, close to Zurich. I always went to one specific Starbucks, right? And there was one lady. She saw me walking in every day, and literally after I think 1 month, I didn't even have to order anymore, because I ordered every morning the same thing, and there was always a huge queue. So obviously the first month I always waited, like there to wait again and so on. And then suddenly she was like, "No worries, it's already ready."
The usual.
Like,
oh man.
Seriously, that was like, I mean, for me it was like a moment of, oh, this is amazing. I just can quickly pay my coffee. That's really a moment of magic. Those are really those moments of magic where you just where, I mean, honestly, I don't remember her name, but her face is still in my mind. The thing is that that's what I meant before. I have the feeling it's difficult to train that, because somebody has that sense of hospitality, I would call it. Like, really, I wanna just make that moment nice for you, right? And wherever I can, I will do that, right? And I think those are very, very human based. That's why also, like, a lot of smaller businesses where you have an owner that is really passionate about what they're doing, most of the times you get that feeling more, because at scale it is much more difficult to actually do. There are examples. I mean, I was just visiting my brother in Dubai right now. We went to a hotel resort and we're just talking with the waiter. He was super nice. I mean, okay, it was Italian, so we've anyways felt like already at home. But then he was telling us about the residences that they have from the hotel and the hotel rooms, etc. And I was like, yeah, we know everything about our residence guests. So when we get a reservation and we know they're coming at that time, their drink is already ready, their favorite wine is already there, their favorite snacks are already there, because we know exactly what they like, and they don't even have to think about that. We just take care of that, right? So it works on both I think on both scales. It is just harder because obviously if you want to serve 10 million members, you have also many more team members, and I mean, we have a small team.
It is more difficult. But I love what Adam said about it just being part of your KPIs, or being part, like baking it in to the process that you do, because in the end, it's really also like, I also love the example of the unreasonable hospitality. I don't remember why I remember that, because I didn't read the book, but I think I watched something, or maybe it was a podcast where they spoke about it. I think it's the restaurant in New York that you mentioned, where they mentioned one story where it was just before Christmas, and I think one guest, he missed his flight, or something like that, or he was late and he couldn't buy a teddy bear or a plushie for the daughter, and somehow and he was alone at the restaurant. Somehow they heard of that. Maybe he was on the phone and what it was, and they sent one of the waiters to the closest shop and bought a plushie for him, and wrote a little note and gave it to him when he left to say, hey,
that's exactly.
We hope you're gonna have, yeah.
That's exactly that. Many of those are in the stories like that, and so you got, and there's a whole chapter 17 called "Creating Legendary Moments" or "Creating Legends," and that's another example. So yeah, I mean, we could talk about this till the cows come home. You know what I mean by that? And I don't know, Arno, I know you did have a few other topics, but is there anything that you're busting to talk about in the last, I don't know, geez, we've been going for almost an hour and a half. I don't know how long we've been going.
You see what I mean with these long form? If you actually get people to get out and open about everything and let them talk to the end, there's actually so much more to say a lot of the time. It's crazy. But it's crazy. Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I feel like it would be sort of possible, just maybe to put a cap on this particular topic. I think there is the potential for these moments to be introduced in the bigger companies. I just feel like, and this is I have no data behind this or whatever, but it feels like a harder sell as well when you're asking for budget to give to people and not expect anything in return or anything. It's if you want to go up to someone in charge of a budget and say, hey, I would like for each of the baristas at the coffee company to have an extra, I don't know, 50 euros or 100 euros or something a month to give these extra free spontaneous coffees to people or for regular customers. It's hard to sell that because then they're okay, what do we get out of it? And you say it's not something tangible. It's not a piece of data that you can give to them. It's more just we're being generous. We're being good to our good customers and everything.
Yeah.
And
so here you are, if you're pitching to me, or if I'm pitching to you, exactly, you're the CFO now, right? So I walk in and I say,
why should I spend my money on this, Adam?
Yeah. So, you're the CFO is going to say, show me the money, show me how it's going to work. Well, clearly you're absolutely right to ask that question, number one. But potentially what we could do is we do a trial. We do a test. And we take a contained set. Let's just take your store example, certain area, whatever it is. And we do give a little bit of a budget. And if we've got the data and it's a program where we can identify people, we've got all these things in place, is we then monitor their customer lifetime value, or their extra spend, or their extra visits, and create a case or a business case or a proof point around that. So in time, you hopefully can prove it. Maybe not, but hopefully you can, because it's not only about the return on Joyalty. It's also about potentially you could do a post survey to validate, did they tell anybody else? So if you did surprise and delight 100 customers and you do have their data and they did get the reward, you could certainly do a mini survey to say, thanks for, we've done this trial. You were one of the lucky people. Can you tell us, how did you feel afterwards? We saw you came back. Thanks so much. But by the way, did you tell anybody else about it? And of the 77 people that tell you that they did, how many people did you tell? 3. So there's 210 people you've told. Okay. So if we get any of those to come back to us, times by the customer lifetime value, Mr. CFO, is there a story there?
Okay, so a trial run. That definitely makes a lot of sense. True.
I made him turn, guys. I made him give us a trial.
Okay, budget approved. Yes, go for it. All right. And
a lot of times, just on one point, because when you talk with the CFO, money is always the topic. Yeah. I have the feeling that so many times it is possible to create also this moment of joyalty without spending money. Like the story that I mentioned from the Starbucks.
Yep.
That lady didn't have to spend 1 cent on making me more happy, because it's not that I got anything for free. I just got a treatment that made me feel like a VIP.
100%.
And that's, I think, those moments where I think
conditioning, training.
You have to train your staff, or you have to get more people on board with that sense of hospitality where they can actually, without spending an additional cent, they can make your customer feel so good that they wouldn't dare to change to another brand, and they actually talk about it with other friends. So I think it's also a lot of you can do more with budget, obviously, but for me that happens so many times when I talk with someone at a reception, with someone, I don't know, at the gate. I was just flying back on Sunday, and I arrived a bit late at the check-in for my baggage. And the first thing I said was like, "Am I too late?" And her answer wasn't like, "Let me check," but she was like, "We'll make the impossible that you fly. No worries." Already that calmed me down like crazy, put a smile on my face, and just like create a kind of a small moment of joyalty, right? So I was already okay. I can fly. Like it's not an issue. You know what I mean? Yeah. And those things they're very human depending. Like you really need to. It sounds weird when I say serve, but like it's literally you want to create just a good moment for someone else, and I think that is something super important that goes more into the recruiting, I would say, than how do you budget, like, because obviously with budget you can then create even more, but there are so many small things that you can do from a human perspective to just connect with your customers and make them feel special.
Brilliant. I just want to finish on that before we move topics, because I love what you just said. And I've come up with this little mnemonic straight away in my head. It's like, you want to serve the soul, not serve the surprise. So the soul of the person, like, and you nailed it. And like, if you want to serve the soul of the person, it doesn't need money. It just needs, heart to heart, a moment of caring, whatever you want to call it. So I love the way you ended this on. It doesn't always need money. But that's, again, a whole cultural discussion, a whole training, team, service, culture. Maybe we need to move to something a little bit more specific to loyalty programs if you want.
Oh, wait. I'm just get ready here, because I've got another great segue here, because we've just been talking about the impact of emotional loyalty. We've been sharing these heartwarming stories of people connecting with their brands on a personal level. We've talked about serving the soul. We're going to go complete 180 degrees in the exact opposite direction now, because we're talking about AI and agents and merchants. So I feel like this is like the perfect segue to go into a completely different area, where we're talking about how so many merchants now are talking and I don't want to say in panic mode, but that are quite concerned about the way that people are shopping now, because half of the reason, and it's already at over half, I think one of the metrics I saw was 55%, but that it'll easily reach 90 to even more in the coming couple of years, which is using chatbots or agents or whatever you want it to be, using AI to do your shopping for you. So it used to be that you would want to advertise your products online. SEO would be incredibly important. Your marketing and online presence becomes ultimately important. You could have a subpar product, but if it was marketed properly and had the right ambassadors, would do just as well as any other product. It feels like, and people are assuming that that kind of stuff is about to be thrown out the window, because you can just have your ChatGPT, your Gemini, your Claude just say, hey, buy me this item, get me the best possible quality for the lowest possible price. My budget is this, go. And you never interact with the brand yourself until you're actually buying it. But then, like, the marketing aspect of it completely shifts, where the people that are in these companies are now marketing more towards agents rather than actual people. And that makes it really interesting. So how do you appeal to people's principles? How do you appeal to the principles of an AI, et cetera, et cetera? We've been having this topic for the longest time. I think it was one of the first things that we talked about on this show on episode 1 was, what impact do we think AI is going to have on loyalty? And back then, the answer was, there are a couple of things, right? But it hasn't been fully fleshed out yet. And it's starting to really flesh out now. Adam, you're going to open the floor on this one. What's your experience been with the impact of AI on loyalty so far? Positives, negatives, neutrals. Give us a little breakdown.
Well, I always come from the consumer's perspective. So in my research for Love or Money last year in 2025, I did a question in the survey around 6 AI use cases for loyalty programs to improve the members' experience. So that was 2025, right? Asking consumers of programs, loyalty program members, how concerned or comfortable they were with these 6 use cases. Now, I know I'm happy to go through these, but really what's more important is that, and I did it again this year, so now I'm tracking this comfort versus concern for these AI use cases. And I'll give you an example of some of those AI use cases, and you'll know them all. Fraud detection. Like, how comfortable are you with AI detecting fraud on your, comfortable or concerned? Predictive product recommendations. How comfortable or concerned are you with AI analyzing your purchase history and other data to suggest products and complementary, based on your preferences? How do you feel about personalization relevance through programs? So comfort concern was the question against 6 of these areas. And overall, the concern is going up and the comfort is going down. Now, I'm not going to get into the statistic relevance, but overall, year on year, it's slowly changing, and some of those dimensions becoming more comfortable with and some less. For example, an AI customer service agent. And that area, we're seeing that actually people are becoming less comfortable because they want a human. They don't want an AI chatbot. They want a human. So that flies in the face of the power of AI, because all these corporations, all these businesses, guess what? They've all got an AI, an airline. Hi there, it's airy fairy here. How can I help you? Blah, blah, blah. That's not a person. That's an AI chatbot, yeah? And then you've got to look at the generational differences. So we talk about generic situations, but you've got Gen Z, Gen Y, Gen X, baby boomers. I don't know if you've got older parents or younger. How do they feel? And there's a big difference there as well. So AI is a topic that is incredible. And no wonder you've been talking about it for so long. And we will continue next year and the year after and all of that. So, I don't know. I'm getting going here, so you guys come in.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're gonna exchange another couple of takes here. I want to add a really, really fun article that just came out last week about AI and loyalty, and we'll dive into it a little bit deeper just after we set the stage here. I just really wanted to share the title with you because it's so clickbaity, but it's also really fun. The title is "AI Will Kill Your Loyalty Program." Good.
Wow. Yeah, is that from Wise Marketer? Is that a Wise Marketer article? I know that well. Yeah, who wrote that one? That's really interesting.
Well, I mean, here's the thing. When I was reading it, you can see the angle. So it's written by a guy who's the CEO of Pug Interactive, which is a company that works on gamified loyalty programs. And that is a lot of what this article is. There are a lot of angles here that say, okay, nothing else is going to work. Gamification is the only solution. Yeah. But there are also some very good points about what the issues are with the way that this sort of agentic thing is going to be happening. But before that, let's actually get a breakdown first. I mean, Gabriela, you were the first one to talk about the AI and loyalty in episode 1. Maybe we can talk about how has that perspective maybe shifted over the months, and how are things looking like from your point of view now, especially now that you're in sort of so deep with the AI agents topic and everything like that.
How is it so deep into the AI rabbit hole? It's crazy.
Exactly.
I mean, obviously it's transformational for us as human beings, for the world, etc. So I'll make a very simple example. Millions of years ago, when they found fire, they realized I can burn stuff with it, so I can do bad with it, or I can do good with it. I can barbecue, for example. I can take a piece of meat and make it much more tasteful. So it's never the tech, it's how you use the tech, right? And the thing is, for me, AI makes a huge amount of topics. I have to say it like this: these human moments, AI will never be able to replace. So exactly the person at the check-in counter, right? That tells me something like that, and then tells it with a smile, or the let's say the coffee lady that actually knows me and just lets me skip the line. My coffee's already there, right? So those interactions, I think they're becoming even more important through AI, because so many other things you won't need a human being. And to be fully honest and fair, I have the feeling that a lot of things will become much, much better for us customers, because you still have a wide range of quality of let's say of services that are being delivered, and they really depend on the human being that is behind, right? So having there less volatility on, is the service good, is the service bad, that's actually something that you will like as a human being, right? So from that perspective, it will solve a lot of different issues that right now are here, because you maybe have someone that is not motivated. You maybe have someone that had just slept bad, maybe had a fight with his fiance or his wife or his girlfriend, whatever it is, right? And that then goes into the job and gives you a bad service just because they are not feeling the way they should in that moment, right? So, and again, we're human, obviously. But on the other side, also, if you're a customer, you're expecting a certain service level, and you maybe don't have now that, you're not that compassionate to understand, you had a fight with your fiance, that's why I'm fine getting a service that is not on the standard that I actually should expect. So from that perspective, a lot of things will get better. I also think, again, the human touch will get even more important. And I'm the first one, like when I see a chatbot, I ask a question. If I don't get the answer in the same moment, I'm writing it, I want a human. Like, I want a human now. Don't talk with me. I want a human. That's it. And so from that perspective, I think, again, a huge amount of value that we'll receive. It will break a lot of things down to data, to economics, to very logic thinking, and there is less space for emotional thinking, in the sense that, and that's maybe also why the article came out with "It will kill your loyalty program," because yes, of course, if I'm telling my chat, my OpenAI, my Claude, whatever it is, or an agent, hey, I need to book a flight from Zurich to Dubai, I have these loyalty programs. Yeah, it will just search for the most comfortable and cost-efficient route for you. So it will look, what is the shortest route? What is the cheapest price that you have to pay? What is the highest class that you can get with it? It will look at how much you have to spend in cash, how many miles do you need, etc. So all the options. So yeah, in that moment, you as a company, let's say the service aspect is almost less important for the agent, or actually it's not important at all for the agent, because it just looks at that data, right? You as a human being, you need to tell the agent, hey, by the way, I specifically like this airline. So priority wise, start here and go down, right? So I think it will give a huge amount of value to humanity, honestly. I mean, we see it, like, we're using now AI internally in so many things. We're going deeper and deeper and deeper in making the company fully agentic and taking off a lot of repetitive tasks, right? Where at the end of the day, no human being is needed. Like, if we're fully honest, so many tasks are just repetitive. And I think it gets, again, even more important that we as a team, we're actually here for our clients, for our, when we recruit someone, when we talk with investors, where you actually need that human connection. I want to have more time to honestly have dinner with my clients, to have dinner with my investors and so on, because it's obviously there where you actually build human relationships. So the more time I'm spending on, I don't know, creating reports, answering emails and all of that stuff, which at the end of the day is many times very repetitive, I'm investing my time not in building relationships. And so I think it's really, again, for me, I'm like super pro AI. I know there is a lot of bad stuff that can happen with it. And I know that a lot of companies are not implementing it yet the right way. And again, I'm experiencing it myself. I just had a phone call to my credit card company on Friday, and I had like this AI going on and telling me basically, hey, you're the last in line. I was like, yeah, thanks a lot. I know that. Now just give me someone that I can talk with. And then he just started with, we can also call you tomorrow. I was like, I need it now. I don't need it tomorrow. And it just went into that loop of, we have an appointment tomorrow at 9:30. We also have an appointment at 9:45 and one at 10. I was like, stop, please. Just stop and give me a human being, or at least put some music on it so that I could just wait, right? So I think there are many good, many bad ways how you can use AI, but generally, I'm a super pro AI. And honestly, also on what you just said with the outcome concern, or are you comfortable with it? I'll say it like this: and I don't have kids, but I think I take my own kid experience. When you tell a kid, take this pill because you're not feeling good, I don't know how many kids want to take that pill. But if you put that pill in a muffin and then you say, eat that muffin, it is much easier to actually basically make your kid take that medicine. And I think it's with customers, etc. It's the same. As soon as you start talking about the tech behind, bam, an imagination goes on, right? Where, oh, this could happen and this could happen and this could happen. Because if you use the same use cases that you just explained, but you don't tell the customer it's an AI behind, they just suddenly see the right product for them, right? Or they get offered the right product. Or take the model that we said before, when you walk into a restaurant and the waiter knows exactly what you took the last time. And AI could be super valuable, because it is difficult as a waiter to know exactly each customer that walks in, etc. And if you then have an AI assistant telling, by the way, this customer is coming at 8, they love, I don't know, they love a whiskey sour, and they like the snack XYZ, that helps actually the waiter to do a better job, right? And so I really think it's
well, even just that example of the waiter knowing what you want and delivering that upon you arriving, it's in the context that you're comfortable with that happening, because you understand that is something nice that you're receiving. If you take it out of context, it seems like some creep that's watching you every day and knows exactly what you do at what time, right? And I think that's to say the AI topic is the same thing, is that comfort versus concern is oftentimes, as you say, the imagination of all the things that could happen, or that weird lingering feeling of there is this artificial intelligence that knows everything about me and suddenly knows that I want this product. But if that's taken out of the conversation, and it's just, hey, at the right time, your shop app will give you the product that is best suited for what you're looking for, maybe at the best price, and you get this value out of it, no one will bat an eye. It's exactly that. Yeah.
We can round trip this all the way back to exactly what Adam said originally about the whole like generational divide about the adaptation of AI and how it works. I think the one of the prime examples is like, I mean, and this goes for tech in general. I feel like I've had this conversation with my mom where I'm like, hey, look at this latest CES Expo where they're literally showing humanoid robots. Soon they'll be able to help you do your chores at home. I can't wait for that. Can't you? And my mom says no. And I go, why? It literally does your laundry and your dishes. And she's like, I like to do it myself. I don't want a robot in my house doing it for me. And to me, at that point, like my visceral reaction was, that's incomprehensible to me. What do you mean? You get this brilliant thing that does everything for you and saves you time. But it's just a lot of things later in life get done on principle. That's one of the things that she said. And also, some people tend to be a little bit technology, what's the right word?
Cautious?
Skeptic, I guess. Cautious, exactly. It's for that same reason that she doesn't want an Alexa in her home listening to everything she says, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, that's part of the point. And then the other angle with which this article goes towards, and maybe this is something that we can treat as perhaps the last question for today, is the sort of agentic middleman topic. This is one of the main criticisms from the article, or not criticisms, but one of the big changes that it's addressing. And that is the power of a brand and brand loyalty. It used to be that if someone went shoe shopping, they would say, okay, or if they want sneakers, it's like, okay, the big choice is, do I want Adidas, Do I want Nike? Do I want any of these other companies or brands? Now 80% of people are probably going to say, hey, ChatGPT, I just want the most comfortable one for the lowest price. So is the brand still going to be like the big sort of status symbol marketing tool that these companies are going to be using? Like, is that going to continue to go even in this sort of agentic commerce era? Or is it going to slow down, or is it going to grow even? I mean, what's your take on this?
That's above my pay grade. What I mean by that is everything's in with the context. So I'm not a branding guy, and if you had a branding guy on this call, they would obviously say to you, well, what category? And you just gave a category called sneakers or runners or whatever, sport or leisure, and that's one category versus grocery versus airlines. The categories is really important in the context. True. So as a focus group of one, if a brand has connected with me, and the ones that everyone knows and talks about, and we'll use it for this example, which is Apple. For me, it's like I will just stay with that because of all the good things that I feel about it. That's just an example of one, but that's a context, right?
True.
So I think the conversation with, is the brand going to be critical, and the resonance of the brand and what it means and the purpose behind it, Patagonia and its purpose, versus something else in another category. So the category is really important. If you just want to get have the cheapest grocery dinner for 6 people because you want to have an Italian dinner with 6 people, give me all the ingredients, buy them for me now. I don't care if it's this olive oil or that pasta or that pasta sauce, just give me the cheapest. That's just part of the whole category context and branding story. So I don't have an answer for you directly, because brand, I think you bring up a very good point, but it's very category specific.
No, that's a good answer in itself, for sure. And Gabriel, I saw you shaking your head when I was making my example, so please go for it.
No, I mean, I fully agree with what Adam just said. It's like super depending on the category. It's depending on, I would say, a few different things, like the category, like what brand, not even what brand, but what product are we talking about? Like the product category itself.
Yep.
It depends on, are we talking about a more cost-efficient, let's say a more cost-efficient level, or a more luxury level? Because from my perspective, the more luxury you go, in general, the brand is more important. Because if you use, like, take all the girls that like Hermes for their Birkin and Kelly bags and so on, no, like they won't care what an agent says. Like the agent can say, look, you have the same bag at the Chinese store 20 meters away from you, which costs a fraction of it. They won't care. They want to have that experience, right? And then it depends also a lot from the customer itself. Like, is it a person that likes to spend money on certain product categories, or is it someone that actually says, if Adam, for example, with the sentence that you said, you just hurt my heart as an Italian, just take me the cheapest olive oil and cheapest pasta. Like, no, I have very, very specific.
That's why I know my audience. I know my audience tonight. I brought it there especially for you. So you see, I made my point just by that example.
Yeah, 100%. No, but that's why I think there are different elements that are important. But I honestly believe that the agent won't take it over. Like, you will still have very specific, how should I say, a very specific, I don't have the word, not need, but like clear vision on what you want. And it might be that certain things you don't really care. Like, I don't know, if I'm just looking around if I see anything that actually, if I need an envelope for putting, I'm not sending mails out, but like if I would need an envelope,
amazing example in the age of AI.
I don't really care. I can tell my agent, just find me the cheapest version, right? That basically works, right? I don't really care. But like, as you say, if I need to buy a new phone or a new laptop, yeah, the thought process there is, I'm not telling my agent just find me the cheapest solution. No, because I have, for example, everything from Apple. So if I just change the phone that is not Apple, I'm completely out of the Apple ecosystem, meaning
Yeah,
that I have to do so much stuff that is super uncomfortable for me. So then just buying the cheapest or the best possible price value ratio doesn't make sense, because I have so many other needs lined up for that specific product that the agent won't understand, won't know. And honestly, it is way simpler if I do it myself, or if I tell the agent very clearly, hey, go buy me an iPhone.
True.
You know what I mean? Like, and there maybe you can say, okay, find me the cheapest option. I need the iPhone, where are we, 16, 17, 18, I don't remember anymore. Basically, find me the newest iPhone with this price. I don't want to spend more than this. And then he finds a few options. But I think it is very brand specific. What customers...
That sounds like that's where it is right now, for sure. And when we put the topic to bed here, Adam, are there any final thoughts, any maybe predictions? I mean, I'm sure maybe this is also in your report, probably, when you talk about where AI is going potentially and everything, but maybe could give like a little tease about like either some of the biggest things that you've noticed personally, or like some predictions about where you think is going, and we'll make that the final question for today.
Well, thank you for, first of all, there's been a very enlightening conversation with all three of you. And Gabriel, you've certainly got some great stories, and I'm sure we could continue on for many of them. I'd suggest that from when I revealed the For Love of Money 2026, I did ask a whole new section on agentic commerce. And the reveal here is I went from AI use cases, and then I went to agentic commerce to see what consumers or members of programs, understand. So it's like a bit of an awareness, but also comfort and concern. And I looked at, I think, 7 stages in the journey, in the process. So I'll just tell you the question so you understand all the stages. It was basically, AI shopping agents, or sometimes called agentic commerce, can automate the shopping experience, from anticipating your needs, browsing for products, placing your order, linking to your loyalty membership, completing your payment, even following up on a fulfillment. So all these stages in the journey is potentially what's going to either happening now or going to happen, right? So I put that whole story in a phrasing. So I created a context, and I asked again, how comfortable versus how concerned, five elements. And so the benchmark, and you can ask me again next year at the same time if it's changed, the benchmark is only a quarter, or 23%, are somewhat or very comfortable. So in terms of the whole journey, not every single stage, I looked at every stage as well, but overall on agentic commerce, doing all of that for you, how comfortable are you? And that was very low. Very low.
Interesting.
Can I challenge you on something? I'll go with the but. No, go with the but first.
No. But generationally, differences. So males are far more comfortable, and Gen Y, which was very interesting, are also more comfortable. Boomers not. No comfort at all. So I don't know what your but is to close off the conversation, but all I'm saying is it's really interesting to see how this might change in a flash tomorrow, next week, next year.
100%.
I wonder what the answers look like if AI is not mentioned, because what we found out,
100%.
What we found out is as soon as you start talking about, and I'll make it a simple example. We use blockchain for our platform, right? And for years, we were so proud about using blockchain. We told every client, hey guys, we're using blockchain for this, you can do this, At a certain point, you know what? Let's just stop. We take it out of all the pitch decks, because nobody cares about the tech. They all care about the value that they receive. And that honestly flipped completely the pitch. Because people, they heard blockchain and went to Bitcoin, they went to scams, they went to meme coins, they went to all of that stuff, right? And as soon as you basically pitch and you ask a customer exactly the same question, but you take away agents or agentic commerce, AI, and all of that, and you just tell the customer what a smooth experience they would have, I think it would change. And then
I think we need to have a debate on this one. So first of all, I
Yes.
agree with you. I agree with you that the context of the question is contained as AI. People then go like blockchain,
Which makes
crypto,
sense
all
in this
that.
context.
I'm 100% in agreement, furious agreement with you. I want to defend it for a second in the sense of I need to get a framing to understand a benchmark, right? But I'll ask you this question, Gabrielle. How would you explain to a consumer what an AI, what an agent, what words would you use? Would you use a digital robot? Would you use a automatic service?
I know what you mean. I know
What
what you
word
mean.
would you use without using the word AI to explain what's actually happening?
I would ask
Digital
the AI.
assistant.
I would ask the AI. No,
All right, we'll solve that next year. I'll leave that with you.
no, but I agree
I
with
do-
you. It's for sure the framing that has a huge. But I'm just obviously in the context of a study, it makes absolutely sense how you ask the question, right?
Yeah.
I just have the feeling that people in general don't like. You have to break it down as simple as possible
I know.
and just break it down to the value. And I'm more also talking about, if you go into the real world and you actually start using these tools to actually make the life of people more valuable, the more you're talking about it's an AI, the more they're scared. The more you just talk about the value and what you can deliver with it, right? You get faster delivery, better prices, you have to spend less time on it and so on. And again, obviously some people will ask you, hey, how are you doing it, right? So I get 100% your point. I just have a strong, let's say, feeling about as soon as you talk about tech with people, the mind goes in so many different directions. The mind, goes then at the point, will I lose my job because of an AI? Does it start war because of an AI? You know what I mean? All the bad topics that at the end of the day, media also puts in our mind and so on, they come up, right? So you automatically have kind of that, I'm not really sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we did have a quarter of the people say neutral. They don't know.
Yeah, that's interesting too. But man, this could be a really great conversation for like a separate debate episode or something like that. I feel like that could be super interesting. We've never done one of those before, but I think that could be cool. I mean, there have been a couple of topics as well that like Gabriele and Gianluca have butted heads on, and that could have been really interesting too as like a separate thing. But hey,
it's all done with respect because I totally get your point.
Of course.
And I think that's what's so great about this sort of vibe that you've created here. I mean, thanks, guys. For finding my 100%. Rant, and I know for you, being proactive to reach out and have this debate. So yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity.
We want to set that standard that, hey, maybe politicians end up looking as well and saying, man, they disagree on stuff. They just talk about it and they don't immediately consider each other enemies. Isn't that refreshing and nice? Who knew that people could disagree and still get along? But anyway,
the politics of loyalty programs. Maybe that's the next topic.
That's a good one. That's a good one,
for sure. Any final words, Gabriele, before we end the episode for today?
I mean, I honestly super enjoyed it. It's as I told you at the beginning, Adam, it's like a few friends in a bar having a conversation. So I really felt that it was super comfortable having you in the pod, and I'm looking forward to maybe a future conversation, a few other topics on it, and thanks again. Really appreciate that you took the time and that you were part of it. Really, thank you so much.
Yeah,
Gianluca, anything from your side?
Likewise, it was an awesome episode, and I love the insights that you brought, and amazing what you're doing with the Joyalty Magic of Moments experiment, or the moments that you're bringing there. They're super cool, and looking forward to see how many more coffees you'll do.
Maybe you can send me a message to say how many coffees you've gifted or done something for a stranger, and maybe we'll start a movement around the world. Who knows?
Yeah,
it doesn't
we'll start
really
doing
matter.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but
you guys
super
challenge and let me know.
I have one final question, but this is for Gabriele and Gianluca. It's just been in my head ever since you guys brought up the pasta point. Rumo, is that a good brand? Is that a solid brand?
That's but best if you do your pasta yourself.
Okay. I'm not Italian.
Beautiful.
Self-made
I
brand.
knew you would say
I
that
love
somehow.
it. I love that. That's so good. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Well
All
done,
right.
guys.
Guys,
Thank
thank
you.
you all again so much for watching. We're going to link all of Adam's socials and interesting posts that we covered and everything in the description down below. So, of course, if there's any interesting takes, any interesting responses, be sure to bring them up. Adam, this has been like such a refreshing episode. It's been really cool to get the takes of someone that like I'm not expecting the takes from. It really adds a little bit of like fire to the conversation. So that's definitely nice and very welcome. So just one final thank you for hopping on here and for taking the time with us.
Pleasure.
All right. And with that being said, we will catch you all then in 2 weeks for the next episode, episode 16, where we've got some exciting M&A news to talk about, as well as some interesting reports to go over. Maybe Adams is going to be one of those. Who knows?
Maybe.
We'll take a look. But anyway, that's it for now, guys. Thank you so much, and we will see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody.
Thank you.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye.